Wizards of the Coast just announced a brand new way to play Draft. Now, it's quite similar to the way we already play Draft, but this one is geared towards 4 players, and they're calling it Pick 2 Draft. In this video, I'm going to be going through the announcement because it is a major one for Limited, especially if this format picks up traction, and I just wanted to explain it to everybody, go through the brief article they dropped on it, and talk about some of the implications for the format, because big news in Limited doesn't come along every day. So, introducing Pick 2 Draft, a new way to play. There's a new way to draft, and it's swinging into Magic sooner than you think. Pick 2 Draft is a brand new way to play, offering all the fun of Limited for 4-player pods. Attendees of recent MagicCons, blah, 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 blah. A 4-player draft format. What is Pick 2 Draft? Pick 2 Draft is our dedicated 4-person draft format. Now, this is kind of nice for some players because it can be hard to get 7 other players to draft. Getting 3 other players to draft is a lot easier, especially because 4 is the default number for Commander. Its name tells you everything you need to know. It's designed to be played with 4 players as opposed to Draft's usual 8-person pods. Pick 2 is a great way to mix up your Magic nights. Pick 2 draft events play out similar to other draft events, but with a few key differences. When you open your first play booster, you take 2 cards from it and pass it to the left. You repeat this process, taking 2 cards each time and passing it to the left until there are no more cards being passed. Then you open your second play booster, pick 2 cards, and pass to the right. You do the same for the third play booster, taking 2 cards, passing to the left, and repeating the process. So basically, you're drafting, but in every pack, you're taking 2 cards instead of 1 card, which is a gimmick, shall we say, that we have seen before in some sets like Commander Masters or Double Masters or things like that, where you are taking 2 cards out of each pack, or some sets you would take 2 cards as your first pick or things like that. But taking 2 cards out of the pack, that's the only meaningful difference to this format. And then, of course, that you're playing with 4 players, which will mean that less build-around cards get opened. So if you're trying to get like a collect them all type card, there's going to be less of those open because there's less packs open. So normally you might expect to get that card later if nobody else is drafting it. In this format, you won't be able to see that as much. Sometimes there'll be less synergy pieces open, so you can usually expect to maybe get the late card for your deck that nobody else can use, but if it's just not open because there's only 12 packs in the pod, even if your deck is still the same number of cards, lower synergy should be expected as a result. And I think the interest of picking 2 cards in your packs instead of 1, there are some thoughts to going, okay, I'll take 2 cards that work well together, though my initial thought is that you would rather just take the 2 strongest cards because you really need to find the open color pairs in a 4-person draft, because if you have overlap with one of the people, that's one person that's sharing half of the colors with you in the pod. So the implication of that is that you're both going to have bad decks and the other 2 people are going to have incredible decks. So you really need to find the open colors. So I would recommend just trying to draft whatever cards seem strongest and then figuring out what seems open in the pod, because when you're right next to 2 of the players and the other player is not that far away either, every player has huge impacts on the other players in the pod. So that's the main thoughts on that part of it. After you've completed the draft, you'll build a 40-card deck out of the cards you've drafted and any number of basic lands. You'll then play against one of the other drafters, with the winning players from the first round pairing up and the other 2 players also pairing up. The winner walks away with the greatest prize of all, bragging rights plus any other prizes if this is an official event. So because you're directly playing against 2 of the other players out of the 3 in your pod, it actually, I think, does reward hate drafting a little bit more than a normal pod, because in a normal pod, you're not very likely to play against one of those particular players because there's 7 other players. You're going to play 3 of them over the course of the round. Some of them might be far away. They might not end up in colors that can use those cards. But in this format, there is such an implication to find the open colors because you're fighting for viability with people right next to you. So you're going to really want to find open colors. So if you pass a really strong card, not only is it very likely to make it into your opponent's deck, you're also very likely to play that opponent. You're going to play against them 2/3 of the time in many cases. And so actually being able to avoid playing against powerful cards could be a very, very important thing in this format. I'm not going to go quite out and say you're supposed to hate draft every time, but the odds of hate drafting being a viable part of this format are much higher than in other formats. A normal draft format, for example, where hate drafting is not recommended because you'd rather just make your own deck better. In this case, making your opponent's deck meaningfully worse could actually be something worth pursuing potentially. So in case you don't know what hate drafting is, it's taking a card that you have no chance of playing just so somebody else can't play it, which is generally a bad strategy in normal draft formats, but in this format might actually have some viability because it's such a smaller pool. Where can I play Pick 2 Draft? Looking to try Pick 2 Draft, you already have. They've been having it at MagicCons. They say Pick 2 Drafts are a great way to sneak in some games between panels or live events, so if you are at a MagicCon, and then you can use pick 2 draft for any Magic the Gathering booster packs. It's not just play boosters, though I will say an older Magic pack might have 15 cards in it, so on the last pick you won't take 2 cards out of it, so that's pretty self-explanatory. It's also now an official format, so your local game store may host sanctioned pick 2 draft events. They're excited for us to try this new format at a local game store in the near future. Hopefully it doesn't replace normal draft, but it is still an interesting development for Limited. Hopefully it makes a lot more sense now that we've gone through the article together. So if you see, oh, there's a new draft format, you won't be overwhelmed. It's basically just normal draft. You take 2 cards out of each pack, which will have some implications for strategy and the way the games play out. But overall, you're just going to be draft. It's going to be fun, and you're going to be able to have a good time with your friends. Anyway, if you made it to the end of this video, leave hashtag pick2 in the comment section down below to let me know you made it all the way till the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.